Let's go to what it really is then. When we talk about the power of melanated people, when we talk about who we really are as guys, and
Right.
understanding that our melanin is so power and it connects us in a way that the reason why they fear black, the reason why they fear is because the lack that they have of it. So then when you see what Dr. Francis C. Welsing talked about is that fear and
Just genetic
that
annihilation.
deficiency of when you have a person that has the lack of pigment, the lack of melanin,
Right.
that they know that they will be annihilated. So therefore, however they got the power, they have the lack of compassion. That melanin comes with compassion. Melanin comes with soul. That we call it soul. We soul brothers and sisters. That's the melanin that connects us. So
Right.
the people that don't have it are a little, and I'm gonna say this carefully, are a little less, and where the term actually comes from, because I'm bringing it all the way back around to Minister Farrakhan, to where they may not have the compassion or the when they were sent to the mountains of Caucasus, when they didn't have the power of the sun, that the sun then started to deteriorate them. So then they're acting out of fear. They're acting out of low self-esteem. They're acting out of a deficiency. So therefore, the only way that they can act is evil. The only way they have to rob, steal, rape, kill, and
Fight or flight.
in order to survive.
Exactly.
So then these people who didn't have what we had, and when I say we, I speak of the melanated people.
Right.
They had to be savages. They had to be barbaric. Because they're in these Nordic mountains. They're in these rough, torrential environments. So they're acting as animals.
Right.
So they're the ones that are actually closer to animals. They're the ones that are actually the true savages. And then they built up such this I don't want to say warrior, but they built up such this conquering barbaric mentality. Let's go to what it really is.
All right, and Nick Cannon was actually really careful with his verbiage. He said they. He didn't specifically say any group of people, but they. And then the so-called Jews, right? The so-called Jews, who he addressed, the dominant white society. He addressed they as the dominant white society. He didn't say nothing about no goddamn Jews. But the so-called Jews got upset. They've been waiting. They've been waiting for an excuse to get rid of Nick Cannon. Waiting for an excuse. He's too much of a radical. He's not Terry Crews. Terry Crews is completely emasculated in Hollywood. You got a dude that's 6'5", 6'6", muscle bound, and the weakest emasculated feminine Negro in Hollywood, at least that I know of. Terry Crews. Nick Cannon is a complete 180 of Terry Crews. So they were looking for an excuse to get rid of Nick Cannon. And they found it. But again, he was very careful with his verbiage. He said that he didn't specifically say any group of people by name. But yet, the so-called Jews, the pale Jews, they get offended by what he said. And the funny thing is that, Jewish people, pale Jews. I just have to clarify this: pale Jews, because they're not the true Hebrews. Nick Cannon addressed it. Professor Grip addressed it. Many others addressed it. We are the true Hebrew Israelites. We are the true Hebrew Israelites, melanated people, and I've been saying that for years. Nick Cannon, Professor Griff, Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, Lily Fuller. We've been saying this for many years. Right? And the so-called pale Jews, they don't even consider themselves white. That's the funny thing about it. They don't consider themselves white. White supremacists don't consider pale Jews or the Jewish community white. I'll back this up with empirical data. Jewish Americans, right? So this article on Wikipedia, and I'll back it up with another article as well, because y'all know I'm very informational. Definitions of whiteness in the United States. All right, you go to the paragraph that says Jewish Americans. Quote, it says, in the 19th and 20th centuries, the racial classification of Jews in the United States was not settled with nativists, describing them as Mongoloid and Asiatic. The United States Bureau of Immigration had classified Jews as Slavonic during the 19th century, but the Delegate Commission contended that linguistic and physical criteria, including the Jew's nose, classified Jews under down the Caucasian pecking order as Semites. In 1909, Census Bureau ruling related the case of George Sishiam to classify Syrians as Mongolians, thus non-white and ineligible for citizenship, caused American Jewish leaders to fear that Jews would soon be denaturalized. Right? See, they want to be white when it's convenient for them that affects their group in a positive manner. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, further it says the racial status of Jews has continued to engender debate, with some commentators arguing that ethnic Jews, regardless of the diaspora history, are non-white. See? Right? And another article here that indicates, Jews being considered non-white. You know what I'm saying? They said, so right here it says, so white supremacists don't consider us white. As far as I'm concerned, the proper response is not to explore whether or not we aren't, but to reject the question. Right? So, again, man, it's ridiculous. You know, I'd say we form a front, regardless of he's a celebrity or not. You know, Nick Cannon has been fighting for the liberation of our people. He has been demonstrating information to help liberate our people. He has been demonstrating information to uplift our people, and also fighting white supremacy. Right? That's what Nick Cannon's been doing. So, with a brother like Nick Cannon, we gotta protect him. You know, we gotta protect him. Like anybody in the Jewish community who gets so-called discriminated on, whatever, the Jewish community rallies behind them and protects them. You know, so we got to do the same for Nick Cannon. You know, so so the story is now that he got his contract with Viacom has been terminated. Okay. Nick Cannon dropped by Viacom, CBS. Viacom obviously owns VH1, MTV, etc. A big conglomerate, Jewish-owned network, right? A so-called Jewish-owned network. So they're dropping everything that he's been working on for Viacom, CBS. Wild and Out, other shows that he's contributed as well. They also own Nickelodeon, where he got his start from. So, regardless, the brother is straight because he still gets residuals from reruns of older shows. You know what I'm saying? He's been on Wild and Out since 2003, 2004, something like that, for a long time. So the reruns, he's still gonna make money off of. They can't stop him from doing that. Well, actually, I'm not too sure about that, but I say hopefully they can't stop him from making money off of reruns of his old shows. Hopefully. You know what I'm saying? But regardless, man, this brother, Nick Cannon, I respect him, and everything he said was factual, and he was very, very, very careful about his verbiage, but they still chose to be offended by something that didn't apply to them, because they don't even, the so-called Jewish people, they don't even consider themselves white. White supremacists don't consider the pale Jews white. But yeah, you want to get offended when it's convenient for you, so that you can act like you were offended by so-called anti-Semitic commentary, when it clearly wasn't. Again, that's a form of cognitive dissonance, and again, you want to be offended by something that didn't apply to you. Didn't apply to you at all. Point blank and simple, man. So, like I said, I say we protect our brother Nick Cannon. I think he's still straight. He can go independent. He's releasing that Dr. Sabi documentary. You know what I'm saying? He can go the Tariq Nasheed route and just do everything independently, not depend on the resources of the dominant white society, and continue to do his thing, his podcast independently. You know, just continue to push out information independently and support this brother. Because I will support him, you know what I'm saying, moving forward. So, yeah, man. Those are my thoughts on that, family. Leave your comments down below. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at GMOG Fitness, family. Till next time, signing out. Peace.